The movie started out with a young man named Jack Cunningham. Jack went to high school at Bishop Hayes. He was a great basketball player with a lot of skill. He was the best player on his team. He did so well that he was named the best player in the inter-school championship. Jack got an athletic scholarship for the basketball team at the University of Kansas, but he didn't take it because he didn't like his father and wanted to rebel against him. When he grew up, he married a woman named Angela. But after his only child died of cancer, Jack became addicted to alcohol, which slowly ended his marriage. Jack worked as a construction worker and lived alone a year after he and his wife split up. He started drinking too much, and his life was a total mess. He was so dependent on alcohol that he would bring it with him everywhere, even into the shower. On one Thanksgiving, Jack went to spend time with his family. After the dinner, Jack's sister Betty told him to stop his bad habit of drinking too much, but he didn't care what she said. He didn't pay any attention at all, and he kept drinking anyway. The next day, Jack's phone let him know that he had a voicemail. It was a message from a man named Father Edward Devine, who worked at Bishop Hayes High School, where he had gone to school. He wanted to meet. When he got there, Father Devine offered him a job coaching the school's basketball team right away because the previous coach had quit. Also, when that happened, Father Devine thought of him as the first person who could take the place of the last coach. When Father Devine saw that Jack didn't seem ready to answer yet, he decided to give him more time to think about it. When Jack got home, he decided it would be best to turn down the offer. He was living in a dull place and wouldn't be able to do the job. Even more, the basketball team at Bishop Hayes High did a terrible job. In those days, Jack wouldn't be able to teach them to play well if he was drinking. Jack tried to think of a nice way to turn down Father Devine's offer, but he couldn't find the right words until all the beer in his fridge was gone. He finally made up his mind to try it. He went to the training ground in the morning. Jack met an assistant coach named Dan. Dan told Jack that since Jack graduated from Bishop Hayes High School about 20 years ago, the basketball team has never made it to the playoffs. The basketball team did once have the best players and win the championship, but that was a long time ago when Jack was still there. Since then, the only good player the team has ever said was their best player was Jack. Dan said that there were only 10 people on his basketball team right now, and that year after year, fewer and fewer students wanted to join. Even though everyone on the team was a player, no one thought like an athlete. They were too talkative and hard to deal with. Even some of them didn't treat Jack with any respect. Dan then took Jack to his office. Since that day, Jack has been working as the basketball coach at Bishop Hayes High School. When it was time for him to play his first game against another school, Jack was so nervous because it was his first time coaching a team. Short story, and the expected results happened. The team from Bishop Hayes High School lost badly to the other team. Many games had been played, but nothing had worked. The team has never won a game. Never, not even once. One night, Jack got a message from Angela, who used to be his wife. She asked Jack to meet her for lunch. After being apart for more than a year, they got back together and talked about their lives. Angela was worried about Jack's life because he was sad and couldn't move on, while she had moved on, found a new partner, and started a new family. Jack was surprised to find out that his wife had found someone else to replace him. Deep down, Jack still wanted his wife to forgive him. Since Jack met with Angela, his drinking problem got worse one day. Their basketball team was going to play against Memorial High School's team, which was having its best game so far. At that time, Jack heard the other team say that they were about to play a loser, which made him laugh. At the venue, the other coach could easily recognize Jack, who used to be a great player, and his bad drinking habit. Just by looking at them, Jack could tell that his team was a loser. Even though they did some warm-ups like the other team, they didn't care at all. They laughed, danced, and told jokes. None of them thought like an athlete would. Jack told them right away to stop being silly. The team had already fallen behind. All they needed was a win, not another thing to make them look bad. The game finally began as planned. The basketball team from Memorial High School was on fire and beat Jack's team without any trouble. They were behind by enough points. The team didn't play as a team very often. Their chemistry during the game was off, and they didn't have enough skills on their own. When the time was up, Jack gave a loud order right away. One player named Marcus didn't pay attention to what he said. Seeing how rude he was towards him, Jack decided to put in another player in his place. Then he makes his team members work harder. Even though they lost every match, Jack's loud instructions made them try to pay attention, no matter how bad the game got. Just now, it made the players excited to play a player named Freeze, who did so many rough fouls that they got the other team angry. Even though Jack lost the game with a big score difference, at least he was able to help his team. On the way home, Jack's father Welling caught up with him. He said that Bishop Hayes High School has a code of ethics, and that one of the rules is that people should be polite. What happened on the field earlier was rude, so it would make the kids feel bad. Pastor Welling said that the goal of the school wasn't to win games, but to help people become honest. When Jack was getting ready to go home, Dan asked him about a beer that Ken had left empty in the coach's office. Dan told him again that he shouldn't drink in the coach's office. Jack was going to drink that night, but he decided he needed to stop his bad drinking habit and just went home the next day. Jack, when all the players got together to talk about the team's plan. Just like usual, Jack felt bad about how Marcus treated him. Even though he was late, he didn't seem to feel bad about it. He didn't say he was sorry, but instead asked Jack to understand why he was late. Jack's mind was changed by Marcus's rude behavior, and he cut Marcus out of his life. He did that so that Marcus would treat the coach with respect and act like a professional. That night, they would play the basketball team from Summit High School. Both teams did a great job, and for the first time, Bishop High's team was able to play against the other team. Jack was the coach. He stood on the side of the court and yelled at the players when 15 seconds were left on the clock. During the timeout, Bishop High was down by 1 point. Jack, who had already studied how the other team would play, told his players to score 3 points in the last. To the right, the word "free" is disappearing from the screen. With that plan, they were finally able to win the game. When going home, Jack gave Brandon Dutt, a player for Bishop, a ride in his car. Jack said that Brandon was his team's best player, but he was confused because Brandon didn't seem sure of himself. Brandon seemed to be able to figure out how his friends played, but he didn't feel like it was his job to correct them. Then, Jack planned to make Brandon the team captain to boost his confidence and show that he was worthy. He also made plans for a harder workout that was just for him. He wanted Brandon to think like a captain so that he could lead his team. This made Brandon so angry that he screamed during the training session. But it was worth it for Jack. Marcus went to Jack's house one afternoon to ask if he could go back to the team. Jack said no. Jack instead suggested some activities outside of school. Marcus wanted to get back on the team so badly that he cried and begged Jack to take him back. He said that he would be polite, take things seriously, and work harder for the team. Jack finally agreed to let him back on the team and told him to come to practice that afternoon. When he came back to the team, it would take him some time to earn the respect of his teammates and show them that he was good enough to play with them. At that very moment, Jack said that Brandon was now the official captain of the team. The basketball team at Bishop Hayes got off to a good start after that day. Jack was able to change things in a big way by training hard and strictly and judging each game. A team that had never won a single game slowly got better and stronger. The team got better, and they started winning game after game. Not only did they play well on the field, but Jack and his players also got along well. The team started to show respect for each other both on and off the field. One day, Jack and Angela went to a party for the birthdays of the children of old friends. They had known each other for a long time and both had children with cancer. Going to the event made Jack think of his son Michael. Jack and Angela went to their son's grave after the event. Their son died 3 years ago. In short, the next day, the Bishop Hayes basketball team played Trinity High in a game. The game was important because it would determine whether they made it to the playoffs or not. If they lost, they would have to play Memorial High School, which would be much harder to beat. The game was so hard that they had to score back-to-back goals with the other team. Since it was their first time playing in a match with a lot at stake, it was only natural that they were nervous. The referee called a foul on the Bishop Hayes team in the middle of the game. This made Jack angry because it was the last play of the game. Jack's anger got out of hand, and he was finally kicked off the field. Bishop Hayes had to go home that night after barely losing. Jack told Brandon he was sorry for getting too excited during the match. Earlier in the car, Brandon asked Jack why he turned down the chance to go to college for free. Jack then told about a time in his past when his father loved him, but only if he did certain things. His father didn't care about anything but how well he did in basketball. Only when he did well at basketball did his father love him. Jack realized that his father didn't love him, but rather his skills. To get back at his father, he turned down a scholarship. When he was young, Jack made a lot of bad choices, and he didn't want Brandon to do the same. Jack went to see Brandon's dad at work one day. Jack told him that Brandon might get a full scholarship because someone had asked him to help with recruiting. Then Jack asked him to go to his son's game, but he said he couldn't because he had to take care of 2 other kids. Brandon's father said that he didn't agree with his son's choice to make basketball his main job and put it above everything else. He also said it wouldn't work because he had been given the same offer in the past. That evening, the match that would decide who made it to the next round finally started. They played at home against Memorial High School, who had beaten them in the past. There was a lot of pressure, and the team was scared about it. Jack told his team that the other team did have better players and maybe even a good coach, but they had changed by that night and deserved to win the game. The game began the same way as the last game against Memorial High School. Bishop left a huge hole behind him right away. The main reason they didn't do well was that they were nervous. But after the timeout, Jack told them a different strategy and how to do it. After that, they began to close the gap. They even fought back and made it hard for Memorial to do its job. Bishop always played aggressively, and when the other team's coach saw how well they played, he started to get scared because he had underestimated them at first. In the 12 seconds that were left, Jack called for a timeout. He talked to Dan about how they should play the game. First, Jack told them what their main plan was to get more points, but in the end, he called Brandon and told him to forget about what he had said. He gave Brandon the job of making the last. Unexpectedly, Brandon did that so well that they beat Memorial by a small margin and made the playoffs after being the losing team for years. The next day, Jack's ex-wife called him to tell him that their friend's child had been taken to the hospital. When they got to the hospital, they found out that their friend's child had the same illness as their own. Michael was so upset and mad at himself for what he did when he saw that brought back Jack's Longden scar. It was such a big surprise. It made him want to drink again. Even after a long break, he was so drunk that he woke up late when the team had to get ready for a playoff game practice. Dan knew that Jack had gone back to his bad habit the next day, so he decided to do something about it. After practice, Dan called Father Divine and asked him to meet with Jack. Father Divine then told Jack that he could no longer be a coach because he had brought alcohol to the training. He wasn't even sober when he went to training in the morning. Jack first said he was sorry for what he had done because yesterday had been a hard day for him. He told them to pay attention to the games in the playoffs, but Father Divine's decision was unanimous. He didn't want Jack to spend any more time with the players. Jack was upset because he was the one who got the team to this point, but no matter how upset he is the one who made the problem. Jack had to leave school and go back to doing what he used to do. At the bar, an old friend named Diana bought him a drink. After that, Jack and Diana got together and made plans to go to her house. But Jack, who was driving drunk, crashed into a boat that belonged to Diana's neighbor. Jack had to run away, and Diana had to run back home. After running away and locking up his car, Jack went back to Diana's house. However, because he was drunk, he went to the wrong house and had to deal with the angry owner. When Jack heard that the house owner had called the police, he tried to get away but fell and hurt himself badly. Jack woke up the next morning. He didn't understand why he was in a hospital bed. Benny, his older sister, was waiting for him to wake up. She didn't want the same thing to happen again, so she tried to help Jack stop drinking by sending him to a rehab center for therapy. Since his son Michael died, Jack had been carrying the burden alone and staying away from his family. Through rehabilitation, he learned how to change his life for the better. He also tried to forget the past and apologize to Angela for not being a good husband and father. At that time, he felt bad about everything and wanted to change. Jack was with his family again, and they kept helping him get better. Jack called Dan one day to talk about his situation. He hoped that Coach Bishop would take him back after he left the rehabilitation center. On the other hand, the team's first playoff game was about to start. Things were now better than before, despite the fact that Jack wasn't there. The lessons Jack taught them stayed with them and turned into a passion for them all. Long story short, Jack kept hearing at the rehabilitation center that Brandon had helped Bishop become a strong team and that Brandon was a star player. After Jack was done with his recovery, he was able to go back to coaching the